Hello and welcome back to another episode with the Broadwater Collective. I believe we're up to episode 9 now. I've got myself, Chris, here. We have Sam and our guest, Justin. Today we're going to dive into a little bit about health and travel. And Justin has a few experiences that I think everyone can take a note out of his book. So we'll get started. Take it away, Justin.
Yeah, that's an awesome introduction. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Love the view as well.
It's a good area, isn't it? How good is it here?
I'm looking in the wrong direction, but
Do have to soak it up.
Yeah.
Few jet skis out there. A few yachts go past.
yeah.
I love watching the birds dive to get the fish. It's like the meeting of the two worlds.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thanks for the intro. So my story is it started at birth. Of course,
Yeah.
and then progressed. I ended up
The ultimate portal.
Through the portal. You then was an engineer for a little while.
Yep.
It's still at heart, I suppose, an engineer. Got an electrical engineering gig for a company that makes trains.
Yeah, right.
So managed like overhead line systems and creating switching, sequencing diagrams and training other people.
Yep.
About how to safely turn off, like manually turn off overhead line systems.
Yep.
Then progressed on the trains, and I always sort of felt that something was like lacking in terms of like.
You're in the rat race.
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna.
On the rat wheel.
I was scared of two things. I was scared of doing that forever, and I was also scared of changing that.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was
conflicting.
It was a conflicting decision point. So, yeah, like went through the point, and I also happened to. I was single for a long time, and then it coincided with meeting a girl. So I met my partner at Fridays Riverside, and she's from Colombia. So
cool.
That sort of really, at that point, I was like always sort of considering where should I go? Where's a good place to go travel and get out of this rat race, and so they don't have to do this forever. And that sort of, I was thinking in my mind, sort of Germany, Canada, South America, somewhere. I had no idea. And of course you don't know. You don't know. If you haven't, unless you travel before and try before you buy. But this one wasn't a try before you buy. This one was like, okay, that's the decision, and I decided.
It's a big decision.
It is a big decision to drop
like
everything
even a decision
and
to
hit
take
the road.
A year off, just to be like, all right, I've followed the blueprint to what we're told life should be. You know, school, education, job security, work hard, and you're like,
get a house.
Is this it? Yeah.
Get a mortgage.
Am I just going to stay on this trajectory, or am I going to mix things up a bit? Am I going to get a bit of fun in there?
True. I think, and you see it in everyone sort of goes through that process at different points in life. You've obviously done the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
You went through the same period. Have you gone through the same thing, Chris?
I did have an experience like that, and I combined it, and I did work and travel at the same time overseas. So I didn't fully escape, which I definitely want to do a year where I just immerse myself in a lot of cultural travel. But yeah, I have had a similar experience, and I have had a lot of experiences overseas and met some people that have changed a lot of the way I think now.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So you're at that decision point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, we all go through it. It's weird. It's a weird thing.
It is weird, but I think it's natural too, because I think a natural part of human growth is wanting to expand and explore and grow your consciousness. So
it's a part of our evolution.
Yeah,
you know,
meeting new people, new experiences.
From Africa to South America, it's in our genes.
We're supposed to be innovating. We're supposed to be problem solving. We're supposed to be. It's all about growth. You see it in little kids. They're always pushing the boundaries. They're always.
Yeah.
The person that feeds them, they'll push the boundary right to the point where it risks them not being fed.
Yeah.
That's how much they want to risk.
Testing the boundaries.
Trying to push that boundary, and So I'll get back to my story without butchering it too much. So got to that point. Quit my job, retired at an early age of 25.
Yeah, nice.
So I went in. I remember going into the boss's office, and
it's the quarter life crisis.
It was.
It's the quarter life crisis.
Geez, I was really nervous actually talking to him. He was super cool with it. He's like, go follow. You got to do it.
Yeah,
And I think if people are scared of not doing it, if you just communicate, you just talk and say that's really what I want to do, and you communicate that, they're always going to be like, well, go do it. Why would you not? If that's what you want to do, and you communicate, like, great, go do it. So I had a good, like, sort of sending off from him. He was like the fleet director. Everyone just looked up to him.
Yeah,
Everyone
good leader.
He was a
Strong
leader.
Yeah, well respected.
So got my retirement. They give you like
Did you get a watch?
No, I didn't get anything.
Or an
I didn't get
acrylic
anything.
plaque.
Yeah, you can have this one.
I obviously wasn't a good engineer. They didn't give me anything. I had one morning tea.
Handshake and get out the door.
Yeah.
Pack your bags.
They
That's-
gave you a "we'll have you back."
That's how I told the story, but realistically, it was like, oh, great, you're going.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah, we don't have
Sweet.
a job for you next month, so it's great.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, how was that, like, going in the boss's office and then you had the chat? Like, what did you plan a discussion? Did you sit on it for a while?
yeah, I
or-
sat on it for so. I'd already made the decision. I'd already
Yeah.
planned it. Like flights were booked. It was just I just
locked
didn't
in.
have the time, and it was like it stretched for like a month and a half, and I only gave
It's a
him.
conversation you
I
avoided.
gave him I just kept avoiding it. It was like,
Yeah.
you're too busy. So
Yeah.
that's why I say, like,
Never
get the
a good
courage. It's never
Yeah.
going to be good. I just
Yeah.
do it.
I did the same thing when I was resigning from my job in New Zealand to come back to Australia. I just felt so bad
Same.
because I had another job lined up here and all that and whatever,
Yeah.
but I left it honestly to the last week, and I walked in the boss's office and I was like, yeah, mate, like, you know, I'm out of here. He's like, what? Nah, sit down. We got to talk about this. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And then I gave him like another three or so weeks. But yeah.
So you went in too light on the first one. You were just like, I'm going. And he's like, hang on.
Hey,
I thought
mate,
we- I thought we were
my bags are
friends as well.
packed. I'm cruising. Nah, yeah, I had a bit of a chat about it, but he's like, look, mate, yeah, you know, should probably, and I'm like, yeah, I should give you more time, but it was just
Yeah.
that fear factor where
It's
I
your
knew I
life,
was
mate.
leaving before, but then you don't want to let people down, but you're letting,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah,
You're letting them down by staying.
Yeah,
As soon as you convince
it.
yourself of that.
That's true.
sort of like a relationship, right?
Yeah.
when you should have left months ago, but you just stay in there and just
The
keep.
brave thing is to end it.
The brave thing is to just end.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's a good diversion. It's awesome. We've all gone through it.
Yeah.
So got through that, and then it was a 3-week window where my partner left before me because she was going to go see and hang out with her family, and I was just sort of left. And I actually left it like I left like 2 weeks of doing nothing to just hang out and do nothing. That was 2 weeks too long because I was getting real nervous about going to Colombia because of
Yeah.
all the stigmas. Even though
Yeah.
everyone's told me it's fine, I had 2 weeks of just doing nothing, and it was just too long for it to creep in. I should have just gone straight in the deep, just dive in the water,
Pull the band-aid off.
pull it off, get it
Yeah.
done. I spent
Get
too
rid
long
of it.
thinking about it, but still. And then you're on the plane for 36 hours, and then you're already there, and it's like just walking. The first sort of moments were pretty cool because Denise and her family picked me up, and then go in. They take me to this little like side alleyway, little shop where we had all these like fajitas and drinking beer, and I'm practicing Spanish because they don't
nice.
speak like any English, and everyone's excited.
How was that?
It's great. Everyone's excited. You're like a mini celebrity for a little
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
You're a bit of a celebrity. You're going around. You just
The
say,
new gringo.
yeah, you're a toy for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Novelty.
Novelty.
Yeah, you can go the other way though. Later on, it starts to turn. There's
They're like,
It's
this
like-
toys.
well, not from the family, but from strangers. You do cop a little bit of you're a gringo. Like if I'm poor, it's sort of your mistake. Some
It's
people
your
have,
fault.
not everyone. Of course, it's like with anything.
Mm.
There's good people, there's bad people. So because I
Bit
spent
of resentment.
yeah, I spent
from some.
4 months there, so I got a good gauge of what was good and what was bad, and
Yeah.
So it wasn't. I didn't feel unsafe.
What was
but-
like some of the culture shocks where you're like, oh wow, people do this? Was there anything like that, or was it all pretty much, oh yeah, we're all the same?
It was all everyone's personality was explainable. Everyone that you sort of met, it all made sense. Like my partner could never truly describe to me what it's like there, and now I get why she can't describe it. It's like it's just different. And everything that you see, like,
Is it more community focused or what is it?
yeah. So in Bogota, the capital, so that's where I first landed. It's a little bit like this. It's not as well structured. There's no metro train.
Yeah.
You can't get around easily.
You find a way.
Yeah, it's a little bit more chaotic. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of traffic. It's
Not a lot of governance.
No. People. It's not, the weather's not great either. So it's always raining. It's always
really?
dark. It's
That's
never,
a different thing altogether.
It's like everyone's like a little bit angry just on the street.
Yeah.
Like everyone's a little minor amount.
Bit
not,
bitey.
not happy. Just something on the couple of layers down. Just something's biting at
The
them.
weather can be a massive
Just
factor of that.
just their general mood. Like when you first look at someone, it's not like a happy appearance. They're just a little
Yeah.
bit like something's on their
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
There's a few
And-
layers to break through before you.
Yeah.
You get to who
Get-
they are,
get to who
and then
they
they
are.
crack a smile and a laugh and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yes.
But okay,
Yeah. Also, Colombian people are quite, not all again, don't want to generalize, but somewhat more conservative than I had in my mind, I suppose.
So you like
But
trying
then-
to hug them and they're like, "Who are you, gringo?"
Yeah.
hey gringo.
Well, this was COVID, so I was.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. This was a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
once you break it down, they're happy. I found that the people were really, really happy. They were happy with what they had. They were always incredibly friendly. Once you break down the initial barrier, it seems like there's like everyone's a little bit. It's like it's about almost like it's closer to survival.
Well, you're
Feels like
you're
that, yeah.
foreign, and there's always like some skeptical. The last foreigner they dealt with treated them bad. They're going to expect you to be similar to that, and you just got to break through that barrier and almost just be like apologetic in a way, and just be like, "Hey, I'm not like the others."
Yeah. The other thing you realize is you really slow down because you just got to say basic things of the words that you understand.
And that's a language barrier.
Because of the language barrier, yeah.
Everyone else gets bored.
Yeah.
Everyone's bored. You're boring.
Yeah,
because
your
you've
wavelength
got-
is like.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the shift in the celebrity. Hey, gringo. Yeah, hey. Ooh. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Hello. It's like you're the exciting thing, and then you do slowly shift.
That
to
makes
being-
sense.
Yeah.
And you got to learn. Like that helps you. That feeling of feeling like shit. Am I boring?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
That
got to
helps
learn to
you
be.
learn.
You got to
Helps
learn
you-
to be entertaining in different ways.
Exactly. And also we'll learn the language as well. So
Yeah.
That's
it
That'll help.
pushes you to learn more than what you would have if you
Yeah.
weren't exposed. That's why they say go to the place to learn the
Immerse
language.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So, when I met up with you, we had to do a little stop at a doctor,
Yes.
and that was pretty much the start of
Yeah.
your journey
Of gut health.
gut health.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the other thing that sort of kicked off in Colombia was I went in there pretty like feeling like Superman and didn't really believe that I was capable of sustaining any damage.
Yeah.
I think as a lot of young adults
Young male
do.
minds,
Yeah.
I think I just got the flu. That'd be right.
Yeah.
flesh wound.
Yeah.
Should
So
be
I
right.
got I drank. Because I was drinking the water. I was eating the food, drinking the water, and soon realised staying in the remote sort of remote Colombia, like Sang Hill and some of these other smaller towns. Drinking the water is now learned as a no-go. You just don't drink the water, and from that point on, I learned not to. But so that got a couple of parasites, and went to the doctors there, and they tested my stool and said, "You've got this parasite, and you just take these antibiotics, and you'll be fine." And so you take the antibiotics, and then started to feel better immediately. Like immediately, it was all sort of like bad diarrhea, bad bloating, just pain, headaches. So that was like the acute stage of it. Take the antibiotics. It sort of got better. It got a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it was at the stage where you've been sick for a week straight, and now it's at week 2, and you're kind of starting to forget what was normal like again. So you just think it's normal. So okay, now I'm normal again. Because obviously for me, I was used to being in Australia. That was an added layer. It was like the mental layer. What was normal from the start? Anyway, I thought I was normal, and then I after the antibiotics, maybe a month later, it sort of started coming back. I'd never had any health problems, and I started like not being able to sleep. I wasn't able, like I was waking up with weird twitches, and I was having blood flow issues. Like I'd sleep and this arm would go
Start
numb,
tingling.
and I'd like it was every night religiously, and I was like, what? Why? How is? I know that it was sort of like the gut health, there's diarrhea once every couple of weeks. I was like, might be a problem, but probably gonna be okay. So it was a massive shock to realize that it wasn't. It was like it's not just your gut. It was every system was starting to get thrown. Like
Get affected.
yeah, the biggest thing was the sleep. It was like I'd had a prescription grade sleeping pill, and I couldn't go, and it wouldn't put me out. So it was like it's like it was like I was just always at a high level of stress. It's like I was just my cortisol was just felt like it was
like
up.
taking over your body.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, the predominant symptoms were the gut, but then you started seeing these other ones, and I just sort of, I started to not care at the start, and then I started to really, really try and focus in. And I kept I'd go to doctors there to say, well, something's up, something's going on. Try and explain it to them, and there's the language barrier, and it's like, we'll test you again, and it sort of never came back up. And then I did my own research to realize that you've got to get, for you to understand your gut, the basic testing that they're doing it's nothing compared to what the testing that you need to do. Like you need to understand the zonulin levels in your gut, which says how permeable is your gut. Do you have leaky gut? You need to be considering obviously nutrient deficiencies. If you do get that leaky gut, which can be caused from either the parasite that I had or the antibiotics, you then have a permeable gut. Then you've got which is a very flat layer in your gut that is the difference between your food and your blood. That's the way I think about it. Then all of that stuff that shouldn't be getting in there is now getting into your blood. Certain things can
so it's
then
the filter between the food getting from your stomach to your blood throughout the rest of your body.
essentially.
Is that like the digestive process?
It's exactly that. It's the digestion system. How do things get into your blood? Well, through your gut lining and your intestines.
Yep.
So, not a doctor.
Yeah.
Definitely not a doctor.
This is just life experience, your own. Yeah.
So, and then when I got back to Australia, I did do that final testing to understand all these different parameters that you have to look for. You got to check for opportunistic bacteria that grow. But anyway, you've got your parasites, you've got your antibiotics, you've got your stress. All of those things can contribute to your gut getting more permeable, which means it's more likely to let things in that shouldn't go in there. Once things can get into your bloodstream, they can do some damage. Your liver has to work harder to get rid of your liver and kidneys. You detox.
So if you're more stressed, you're more inclined to let things into your stomach. Would that be right? Yeah.
So because stress can come in many forms. You can have environmental stress. You can have like physical stress. Like they know that triathlon runners. I listen to a lot of Ben Greenfield. Used to be a massive triathlon fiend. And he talks about how he would have to protect his gut because the stress of the long distance triathlon would create a more permeable gut line. You'd have problems. You'd have bloating. You'd have these sort of issues that are only they seem like they're manageable symptoms, but then they compile and they lead to other deficiencies.
Yeah, it culminates.
Yes. So anyway, the thing that shocked me was that I'm pretty sure I had that, and my later 3-month later testing sort of confirmed it. But I believe the root cause was that I had this gut lining issue. The other thing is over in America and in I don't know South America, I haven't researched, but they have this thing called glyphosate, which is a pesticide they use on foods. So that glyphosate they use it, and it's another thing. So now you've got so many things that can create an imbalance and can attack your gut lining, and then you get further flow-on effects, and you're out of balance.
Yeah.
So all of those things contributed to that, and the thing that really got me as well was there are some things that when they're in your blood, they pass the blood-brain barrier. So there's something in wheat particularly. It's called WGA. It's an agulin. It's like if you look at wheat, you've got the germ, you've got the WGA, the agulin, and that agulin is basically like it's like the plant defense chemical.
Yep.
It's like it defends it from if something eats it. Yeah.
So,
So
it's
it's
designed
also-
to repel.
Yes, that's the idea. That's
Yeah.
it's similar to lectins.
Yeah.
So you've got that thing,
So
and
it's,
then
it's almost like a toxic thing.
yeah, and I was at this point, I'd had antibiotics a couple of times, and now I'm starting to self-experiment and realize that I need to not keep taking antibiotics because they're just going to keep prescribing.
Because you've just been going through
destroy
the
everything.
doctor route. Have you gone to the Eastern medicine side, or have you just been through Western medicine?
Yeah, I tried the doctor route, the Eastern at the start,
Like take a pill.
and over there, it was like, it's like it's just a silly amount of money to go see a functional medicine doctor that would have prescribed more traditional Chinese medicine
Yeah.
or the Indian Ayurvedic stuff. So yeah, it was just too expensive. It was I sort of did my own research on what those things are and I understand that with parasites you're supposed to weed and seed. That's the modern the Eastern version of weed and seed, which means get rid of everything and then seed better things to grow. You're weeding is your antibiotics,
Yeah.
and your seeding is your probiotics. And then that's the Eastern thing. And antibiotics, the problem with antibiotics is they just go in and just destroy
Destroy
everything.
Yeah,
They-
absolutely
they-
flat
The
line
good
though.
and the bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes you very vulnerable. I don't
Yeah.
think people realize when they take antibiotics, like, you got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself every chance for the post.
Yeah.
To seed. And do doctors
Exactly.
explain that when you get?
Here's
I've had antibiotics
here's some
once,
pills, mate.
and
Just
it's
make
like-
sure you finish them.
Yeah.
Try not to have too much sugar.
Yes.
Yeah, make sure you finish
Just
the
make sure you
cycle.
finish the cycle because that
Mm.
has effects too. So
Yeah.
but
Makes you think how far we've come as a civilization to understand what we do. It's just like another symptom of saying, yeah, we've got a bit more to go. We've got more to understand about this whole gut system and how that,
Oh, for sure.
because it makes sense as to why the system's like that as well.
The general practitioner can't know everything. The specialists are specializing in their field, but then they can't talk to the specialists of these fields, and there's no general specialist that connects it all together. You
Yes.
kind of got to work out what you can, and good luck, I guess.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it keeps, like, that system is designed to keep you alive. It's
Yeah.
not there to treat
To
chronic.
optimize
Mm.
and
It just says, are you dying? And I
Yeah.
went in a bunch of times.
yeah.
I was feeling pretty sick, but I wasn't dying. All my blood panels were like not within the not dying range, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thresholds are not as sensitive as you would like to get the treatment that you would like.
Yes.
They just
yeah.
can't do that for everyone.
Exactly, and that's why you have those and it was available. Like, we found a functional doctor, but it was like it was more than $1,000 to do just one of the tests that I was like thinking. Oh, hang
was
on.
that Australian dollars?
Yeah, it's just
That's,
$1,000. Yeah.
Damn, that's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
and they can't. People over there can't afford that.
No.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the other thing is the reason this is a repeatable thing. Like, I'm not the only one that's gone through this.
Yeah.
Heaps of people go traveling, they come back, and they're not the same for at least a couple of months, sometimes a couple of years. And they're like, it's because that, and they know that they've done studies to show that, like, I think they did a study on a Mexican population of young kids, and they showed that they tested a certain, like, the gold standard of antibiotic, and they said, well, what's the reinfection rate like? And it's like super high. It's almost all of them get reinfected. So even though the antibiotics come in, they're always still having the parasite.
Yeah.
So
Of course. They're still exposed to the root
Yeah.
source.
and then there's also studies. So if you take that bit of data and then you link it with the more body of evidence that having that parasite leads to declined growth, like mentally and physical growth, because it's in there taking your
That's
nutrients,
crazy. Yeah.
creating inflammation.
It's sucking your health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you
For its
become
own
less
growth.
of a person, physically, mentally, energy,
yes,
from this little bug in your gut.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what was something that happened where you're like, all right, I've really got to fix this and I've got to find a way to fix this, and how did you do that?
So that was, yeah, it was when so I'd got the one parasite. It's called Giardia lambia, Giardia something with L. I can never pronounce it. And then I got another one which is fairly common in a lot of the population but doesn't have symptoms, called Blastocyst hominis. And then I had an opportunistic bacteria called Helobacter pylori, Pylori, something like that.
All at the
H.
same
pylori.
time?
All at the same time. But and
Damn.
although the problem with the testing over there is, it's like with the Giardia, it was so clear that none of the doctors understood the difference between acute, as in when you have really bad symptoms, you're vomiting, you're diarrhea, versus chronic. So it's like, we only know that acute exists. And it's like, well, but my poo's testing positive to this thing that's still there. And they're like, and no one could really answer me about, like, is it like left over and it's a resonance and it's actually gone, or is this thing just
still there?
They're still just shedding their, it's like their egg. They're called cysts. So is this thing just constantly shedding cysts, and I'm still got it? Or so I was under the assumption I had 3 different things, but again, I'm still not to this day completely sure
about what.
Yeah. And then it got pretty bad. Like, I had not an endoscope, but I forget the name. The one
Colonoscopy.
Oh no, it was an endoscope, because the colonoscopy. I had an endoscope, and I did that halfway through Europe, because this started like probably a month in, and this was all going on whilst I was continuing to travel, and it was a little bit traumatic, because I was trying to manage going to the Jesus, sound
Chaos
sensitive.
on chaos. Oh, no,
it's a bit traumatic, but I was trying to manage. Like, I had this plan, and I was like,
Yeah.
I want to keep going with the plan. I want to go
Well,
travel. I
your
want to
health's
learn
just
Spanish.
deteriorating.
And then my health's like taking a bit of a knock, and I'm like, how should, it's a little bit like, how should I handle this? Should I just quit? I've got all this stuff booked in.
Yeah.
I don't have insurance. I don't get insurance.
Oh,
I don't
no
take
travel
I don't take
insurance?
travel. Remember, I'm Superman.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
don't you
that's
remember
right.
that? I'm
Yeah.
Superman.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't need it. So you go through all of that, and then the thing that actually made me sort of turn it all around was that sleep thing. Towards the end, I was staying in, coming back from Europe, going. I had the endoscopy in Europe, and that was whilst you're. That's a weird sensation. They put the thing in your throat, and they put some like antibacterial stuff in your throat, so you can feel something there, and you're awake. And the doctor's there, and she doesn't speak much, a little bit of English, but not great. And she's like, and she's she's moving around, taking pictures, taking samples while you're awake, and you feel this thing in your throat, and it just shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And while it's uncomfortable.
Did you have any impulses to like cough it out, or?
Oh, so it's like needing to vomit for the. You're like at that point of you're just about to vomit for the entirety. It's yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable. Glad I did it though, because that's what they took the sample of the stomach lining that proved that thing was still in
Does that go all the
me.
way down to the stomach?
It goes into the stomach, and then they make it through. I believe I don't know if they go to the small intestine. There's a little valve between your stomach and your small intestine. Then it goes large intestine. But I don't know if it went in. But all I know is they were checking. It was more to check for do you have an ulcer? Do you?
They're narrowing it down.
Yeah. Do you have something physical that I can see? And they also take a sample, and they say, well, what's in your stomach? And it was like, well, yeah, that I think they even might have said once that the Giardia shouldn't have been up that high. Like, usually they find it lower in your stool. It should be lower or something. It was something like that. But anyway, it confirmed that it was there in the system. So then I was like, crap. So I went to the doctor over there, got more antibiotics. At this point, I hadn't shifted to natural stuff. Back in Colombia, I did it. I didn't go to a doctor, but I took these weird. You could buy in Colombia. It's all in the smaller town. There's no real supermarkets. It's like all the food's in a market, and they have these herb sections. So I'd done my research to understand what are weed and seed herbs that I could take to get rid of this thing, because antibiotics seeming the evidence is saying I'm going to get a little bit sick, and then that's going to fix it for a little while, and then I'm going to have to do that again forever. Am I? Is that what you guys, the doctors, are telling me? So go there, you get, and I looked into these things like wormwood. It's called a henho in Spanish. So I was learning how to say weird herbs in Spanish.
Yeah.
It was like translate wormwood, which is an antibacterial herb, into a henho. Tiene. I was like, ask me, do you have henho? Like,
Yeah, right.
It's like, I know weird words in Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And then like licorice is very healing. So like I bought licorice root over there. I was eating raw papaya seeds, raw garlic. Like this is where the WGA, the wheat agulent, you can buy that in pure form where they've separated the germ and the WGA. And I had that thing because I was reading, and the study was showing that helps get rid of it. That's one other thing to help. So I've gone and self-dosed all this stuff.
So that's part of the weeding process, the WGA.
Yes. So that's when I remember having that in it. That was, and I sort of titrated everything in. So I had wormwood, then I had the papaya, and then a couple of days later I'd start adding garlic and making sure that I'm not.
So what does the garlic do?
So there's a couple of studies that say you have that with, you just eat raw garlic 3 times a day, an hour or 2 before food, and then that's supposed to be antibacterial, anti-parasitic. So it's like a natural version of.
So it's a probiotic-ish kind of.
No,
it
the opposite.
helps the probiotics.
No,
thrive,
it's
a weed.
It's a weeder. It's a weeder. So I was doing a lot of weeding.
Yeah.
The other thing I should mention is that's not the last person I saw in Australia after coming back. Sorry to keep jumping around.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So that's where it is in my head still.
Yeah.
Honestly, I for a long time I couldn't talk about it because I'd be like, but it detracts from my experience in Colombia. I was like, I just have had this awesome experience. Am I going to focus? Yeah. So anyway, got back, and I've since realized that it's not just about the weed and seed. Like that, even the Eastern and Western weed and seed, it doesn't have great efficacy. So both versions aren't great at ridding your body of these things long term. Some people get lucky. They have the antibiotics, they're fine. They're good, it's gone. Some people just get lucky. Other people don't. Some people are so immune to it, they've had it their whole life, that's just natural resting state for them. And they potentially have gut issues, or maybe they didn't. It's so hard to see. It's like sleep. You don't know when you've had a better sleep, what you would have been like if you had a better sleep. How would you be operating?
Yeah.
Hard to know.
Hard to know, yeah.
So got back, and I've since realized that it's not just about weed and seed. It's actually, there's another way you're supposed to do it, and it's all about changing the conditions of your gut so that they don't grow there. So it's this idea that your colon has a pH that it should be at. And after all these things, the stresses, the antibiotics, the glyphosate and the pesticides, the whatever the stress is that's got you into this predicament, weeding and seeding may be a good idea to start. A gentle weed and seed may be good, but change the conditions. So
strengthen your gut.
Because weeding and seeding is sort of like a band-aid, right?
Yeah, it seems
just
like a potion solution.
You're still having to weed because you're still seeding.
It's a good point.
So it's like a band-aid, but now your solution here that you've discovered is like eradicating
the root cause,
all of that, just to the root cause. Well, my gut, right,
allow your gut to become
is where it's seeding. So I'm going to stop the seeds planting here.
Strengthen your gut to be able to handle the weeds.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly all to do with. And I thought that antibiotics were that. I was like, that's a band-aid. But then I thought the Western version of the henho, and then the healing licorice, and then having the right probiotics.
Same deal.
I thought that was not a band. I thought that was, that's more natural. I thought natural
It's a natural version of the
it's a natural band-aid.
It's a natural band-aid. It's not. It's still not a band-aid.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still not a root cause fix. You're right. But it might be.
So then you've gone.
It might be. For some people, it is though.
Yeah.
Some people.
Well, the band-aid. Band-aid could heal.
If you stick,
if it's a scratch.
If you keep the band-aid on.
Yeah, you might need stitches though.
Yeah.
Depends how sensitive you are. I suppose.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. And depends how severe the issue is.
So what was your discovery there with that, with the solution?
Oh, so there are certain things you can do to change the pH of your of the right areas in your body. So your colon is supposed to be at a certain pH, and if it doesn't, then things grow there that shouldn't. They should never be able to get there. And then one other flow-on effect from having all these antibiotics is that your body stops naturally creating as much acid in your stomach. That lack of stomach means you don't digest the food properly, you don't break down the food.
Your energy's not getting...
Your energy's not there, you're not digesting food, you're then creating more opportunistic things grow there that shouldn't be growing there. So you've got yourself into a situation where you want to get... The solution that worked for me, after a lot of trial and error, was get the stomach move, like making more acid. So that's having things like bitters and digestive enzymes, more bitter foods.
So that's why you have bitters before you eat, because it activates the acid in your stomach to allow it to be ready to process food into energy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
before you have a big meal, have some bitters.
Precisely, yeah, and you can do that with food as well. Like you don't have to get it in a. There's a lot of if you go on iherb.com, you can see all different bitters, Swedish bitters and Gaia bitters, and it's basically just weird roots you've never heard of.
Not the bitters you buy at a pub.
No, not
That's like the
Not Victoria bitters.
cordial version. No, not the VBs. But not even like the bitters that they mix with the
Lemon lime and bitters.
Yeah, not that bitter.
I should be a bartender.
You'd be good at it. You'd be good at it. Just throw on chat.
Yeah. What do you want?
It'd be a long line. I reckon. You just get stuck talking to people.
I might do that on my overseas adventure. I'll be a bartender for a month.
I wish I did. Meet some good people.
Yeah. All right. So the bitters.
Carefree life, I suppose.
You've made your own bitters, haven't you?
Yeah.
Go to the herb shop.
Just the last point I want to put on that. So you fix you fix the acid in the stomach, and then you fix fix the pH in the colon, and you do that through. There's a couple of different ways, but butyric acid is something that helps change the colon pH. So what worked for me was this thing called partially hydrolyzed guar gum. A lot of ghee, like Indian thing, those things help create more, help stabilize your colon pH. So it was a combination of things that weren't so aggressive that worked for me.
Yeah. And where'd you get ghee from? Was that all from iHerb, or you can get stuff at different Asian supermarkets or Western supermarkets?
You can actually get a good grass-fed one from Woolies for I think it's $4 or $5.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the one thing I'm not sure
it's
about
GHI, ghee?
GHEE. It's like an Indian superfood.
Right.
But they've got
I've never heard of it.
They've got a problem over there where it's like I think overweight's on. What's the word? Overweight's on the way up.
Yeah. Obesity.
Obesity.
The Western world is
obesity's on the way up.
that damn sugar that those Indians. Well, they put it in the tea first, so it's doing a full circle.
Yeah.
It's making its way back in the form of a juicy
They got the
cheeseburger
Brits hooked on it.
with a sugary bun. But yeah, I mean that's why we all have a sugar addiction.
Yeah.
They put it in the tea.
Why don't you like the Brits?
I am.
He's
the
having
Brits.
a few stabs at the
I am
Brits.
the Brits. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, our culture is Brits,
Yeah.
and that went to America, that went to Australia, it went to New Zealand, it went to Canada, and it took the sugar addiction with them.
It did.
It's true.
Yeah.
So how long do you think it took for you to get to a point where this was all eradicated and you were back to your old self?
Probably since coming home, probably 9 months.
9 months of sticking to a structured routine of these bitters and a healthy diet and all these natural products.
I remember when you first got back and you were a shell of a man, and it really highlighted the importance of gut health. Like your conjugative thinking was just on a much slower wavelength. And then your physical
may have had two
capabilities.
mechanisms though. That could have been because I wasn't regularly speaking English.
Yeah.
Like I was so used to slowing down to talk.
You're in a different mindset.
Yeah.
You're on a different wavelength.
But the weird thing is, I actually liked that mindset a little. Like a part of
It was
I
relaxing.
liked it. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not stressing about it.
It was chilled. It was like,
It was
great.
natural.
Like you're just a little bit
It was
drunk.
all
Just got a
natural.
buzz on.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
like you always have just had 3 beers.
That's the perfect zone.
Well, you're not at work where you you say things that you sort of have to say. You know,
With
you've
that
gone on
mask.
this. You
take the mask
You've
off,
taken all your
you've
masks
shed-
off.
Yeah.
You've gone
you've shedded the
overseas.
masks.
You've been who you are, who you want to be,
Yeah.
and you just relax, and you're in that mindset and
Free.
headspace where you're just being you.
The holiday mode.
Well, yeah. It's a great summary.
It's
a really
That's
great
a good way to put it.
It's
like
it's
that's
true. It is
exactly what
true.
happens.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much coffee were you drinking?
I stayed away from it for a little while, but during the cafeteria zona, where it's like
Yeah.
you got to try every coffee from every different pueblo, every different little city.
Yeah.
You want to try everyone, like 2 or 3 a day, like
2 or 3 coffees
two
a
or
day.
3 coffees a day, which was above from my like sort of. I stick to now
Yeah.
1, and I have probably 8 days rest every couple of months to let my
Okay.
body not be so addicted to that crazy, delicious
It's addictive.
chemical.
It is addictive.
That mix
Yeah.
of
So I guess like that whole journey really, like, what was your thoughts of gut health before and after? Like, obviously you've learnt the criticality of gut health, how it can just control your energy levels, the connection of gut and brain,
Yes,
and the importance
yes.
it is to maintain a healthy gut environment. What's your like top 5 things of this is what I recommend for a healthy gut? Doesn't have to be 5.
From your
but, like,
experience.
Yeah, the part of it became also there's a hidden thing. It's, as you said, the brain and gut is so combined. It's I know I'm only anecdotally, and all the evidence is coming out to support it now, but it's for me that's definitely it's the connected.
You felt that
For sure.
yourself.
I
For sure.
I
Like,
saw it, yeah,
science is
yeah.
catching up with the pseudoscience of the
Yeah.
mind and gut connection.
So I don't know if part of it is also just because you get a little bit. It's hard to know whether it's the chicken or the egg. Like, was it the fact that I was also stressed was I stressed as a result of it, or was I stressed before it? And then my inability to get over this parasite is because I was stressed. It's like did the stress come after I was sleep deprived for
Yeah.
a couple of weeks, and then I just like where it's hard to draw the line, and it's this weird mix.
And then do
Yeah,
you need
it's
more
weird
brain
mix.
power throughout that process to
Yeah.
overcome it as well? Because you're in this state where you're, it's like being in a boxing match where you've had a few right hooks, a few lefts. You're like,
Yeah.
where am I? And then you've got to gather your headspace and go, right, this is what's happening right now.
Your energy's
I have to
zapped
fight.
at a
Yeah.
time that you need energy.
And and then having that mindset to shift into that mode of like, okay, there's a parasite in me. It's starting to take over. I'm noticing I'm not myself. Now I've got to kick into another gear to
Yeah.
push
Yeah,
through that. And
yeah.
then surely there's a tipping point where you probably won't be able to do that.
Yeah, it's weird. You start to question your sanity. You start to question what is my health worth, and like how much effort should some of the things you question, like how much effort should I put into getting better, and then that sort of ticks over into this idea that why do people that know that eating bad food, they can just continue to do it? Why do people that know exercise is good, they don't do it?
Yeah.
It's that whole, well, they don't, potentially
It's not in their face.
well, we don't think we're worth it.
It's
Like,
like-
so there's that bit kicks into
Yeah,
it. It's
there
like,
is
well, I'm a
that.
flawed human. I've got you think of your flaws. It's like the beautiful Jordan
Psychology
the
of
Jordan Peterson
Yeah.
rule. I think it's like rule of his 12 rules of life. Rule
Yeah.
2. It's like maybe it's not rule 2, but it's look after yourself
it. Love yourself.
as if you were responsible for looking after
Someone
your dog,
else.
your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he talks about people get medication and administer it to their
And
dog
then-
Yeah.
more than
And then he
themselves.
gets
Yeah,
lazy.
yeah.
But then he gets lazy, and his last one is just like pet a cat.
Yeah. 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 If you're walking on the street and you see a cat,
Pet
pet
it.
the cat. But I also
No,
love dogs. I'm a dog
I
person too.
ran out of rules.
There's
It's
something
Yeah.
to that, man.
Yeah.
I was like at a friend's
Yeah.
place and they had dogs. I was patting the dogs last night and I was just like, yeah, there's something to this.
You couldn't wrap it up at 11.
I think
couldn't-
11's more
you
catchy.
couldn't
People
wrap
connect with 11. It's
What
like
was 11?
11 rules of life.
I forget. I
don't
just
know.
finished the
I think I stopped
audio
reading
book
it
like 2
ages ago.
days ago, and I do forget a bit of it.
That's a good book.
It is a good book. I'll
Yeah,
listen
I
to
need
it
to- I
again.
need
There's
to
a
listen to it
lot
again.
going on in it. Jordan Peterson is like
He's
super
intense.
smart dude, very
Yeah.
intense,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of analogies in there,
Intense
and
is
you've
a
got to
great
read
word.
into it.
Intense is a good
Yeah.
word.
But yeah, what are the undertone psychological aspects of not eating well, not drinking well? Does it culminate on... Because there's addiction sides of it as well. Like I guess, conspiracy, but the corporations put things in the food to make it addictive. Whether that's sugar, MSG, or
Yes,
different
yeah.
chemicals that they're like, yeah, this will get them back and wanting that again. But there's
Yeah.
also
We'll win this fight.
You know, not everyone eats the cheeseburger every day. You know, some people have gone, no, I want to look after myself. I want to be more into this and that. And then that culminates into that full embodiment of health, whether that's what you're eating and drinking, exercising, the energy you're putting into your body, the things that you're watching and reading. Like, you're just taking junk
Everything.
out
Yeah,
of your life.
everything.
It's holistic. It is.
It's
So,
holistic.
there's a lot of pieces
Good way
to
to put it.
this weird puzzle of a body that we've been given here. It's like yeah. What sort of supplements do you guys take for health? Speaking of health, what sort of
I actually
supplements you
don't
guys
take any
taking?
supplements at the moment. I'm fully natural. I don't even... I should be diving more into my health than I am, but I just traditionally eat healthy. I don't buy snacks to eat. I don't buy much chocolate. I'll have a chocolate bar maybe once every
Yeah.
2 months or whatever. I just eat, vegetables, greens, a portion of meat, fish. Yeah, I just eat a variety of healthy food all the time.
Smart.
You
Yeah.
definitely
But it's not
treat-
structured. It's just I'll go for the healthy option all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
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 You definitely treat food as medicine.
That's right. Yeah, I look at food, and if there's chips there, and then if there's potatoes next to it, they're both potatoes. But I'll eat the
wholesome food.
I'll eat the wholesome roasted
Yeah.
potato over the
I don't know if
fried
I've
chip.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've talked about it already, but like, you think of the environment and what we've done with the environment. We've all these things and we've turned it into plastic, and then plastic will sit there as rubbish, and the earth that's evolved over billions of years in this like harmonious way, it knows how to, if I throw a banana peel on the ground, it knows how to like biodegrade and turn that banana peel back into food or whatever, and then it cycles
Yeah.
through.
It becomes
the
nutrients for
existence.
another plant, which will take that, and
Exactly.
you will eat that.
Because it's been doing it for millions of years.
Yeah, it's a
And then it
cycle.
gets plastic, this synthetic thing that we've created, and it's like, I don't know what to do with that. And then we're like, okay, so that's going to take 500,000 years to break down, or maybe it's longer than that. We don't actually know.
Also, the plastic in your body.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Think of food
Yeah.
today as that. The more we've processed it and changed it from what our bodies have been used to processing, the more our body gets it and goes, what's this? I don't know how
Yeah.
to break that down.
Yeah.
And
Where
then-
does it
and then
store
we're
it?
just shitting plastic. Well,
My-
it just gets clogged up everywhere.
Yeah, apparently it's one of those things that gets stuck for a long time in weird areas.
believe it.
Yeah,
I
but,
believe it.
But I think it's like anything. It's like it's an assault of it is the problem. It's like probably one or two. Your body's very adaptable. It wants to heal. You could probably deal with plastic at a certain
At a
frequency,
certain rate, yeah.
and every
A certain
person
amount.
will have a different tolerance to that assault.
based
of
on their own
plastic.
health and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's true for most assaults.
Yeah. You can handle
Assault's such a
certain-
strong word, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. It's an assault
It's an
on
assault.
your body.
It's an
Yeah.
attack on your body.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think a lot of the diets that work for people, the one thing I always see in common is it's a whole food. Like, it's the natural food. You've gone to the most natural portion of that food. So when people go vegan, it's like that's a
Yeah.
very natural way to eat. When people go just meat, that's a very natural way to eat. When people go paleo,
yes.
like,
You know what I've been thinking recently as well? Just thinking back to how we would have been eating ancestrally. How would your grandparents have been eating, and before, which is where most of they say that it's 28,000 years for evolution to make
for
a
your
change.
DNA to actually
So
adapt.
we should be from now back 28,000 years ago. Whatever they were living like, that's what we should be. Again, hard to tell with the latest of artificial
Yeah, should's a
world that
strong
we've
word.
made. But let's
But from a
assume
DNA perspective.
Yeah.
That's what our body's used to.
Well, there you go. So
Right.
back then, I've been thinking we need to be eating a lot more. Like if you think about how many different meats you eat in a day. I've been thinking sometimes
Mm.
it's like 4 meals. Let's say that's 4 different meats, different, not the same animal.
Yeah.
So like how ancestral is that? Are they out catching a cow, killing a chicken, killing a turkey,
Having some lamb,
grabbing
some
some
goat.
salmon,
You're a solid
all
hunter.
in one go?
You're a solid hunter.
Like,
if
you're doing pretty well.
You're
if
doing pretty well. You've got a good tribe.
And I don't know, you must be running to the You're running to the Tasmanian Sea to get some salmon. Then
Yeah.
you're running up.
This guy's a warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic man.
covering thousands of kilometers each day to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tens of thousands. But so I
It's a
try
very
and
cool
I
thought.
try
Totally
and
natural.
I try and eat cyclically. So I try and go like if I'm eating I only eat beef. I'll try and stretch that out
Oh,
for
okay.
like a couple of days, and then I'll eat
Oh,
only.
got
That makes
you.
sense because then the
Fish,
flora
and I'll
in
eat
your gut
only-
is in beef mode.
Yeah.
And it's like we got beef covered,
Yeah.
and then fish come, so then it's in for a few days.
Because if it's all of it,
Makes
like
sense.
if you're eating a meal with chicken and with lamb and with beef,
Sounds good.
let's get the Barbie going.
Surf and turf.
Yeah, but I don't know how the gut reacts to that.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
probably like,
my
what's-
mind is just like food in the
this
stomach. It just all
friggin-
gets broken down
it's a
together.
rave.
But
Yeah.
I don't know on the micro level of how the microorganisms will
Yeah.
just eat at certain things and certain chemicals get released to break down, different food forms.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't know if you've off in your peripherals, there's this idea of the carnivore diet, and it's nose to tail eating. So it's all about eating everything. So when you would have killed an animal, that 28,000 years ago, let's say, then you've also got all of the organs. You've got the bones that you're probably putting in a soup.
Yeah.
You've got all of those minerals.
Nothing goes to waste.
And those minerals are alkalizing. So what meat does is your body needs a lot of acid to break down meat.
Yeah.
So those minerals like sort of offset it. And I've also heard a lot about this amino acid glycine. Glycine is high in the organ meats and the bones and the bits that aren't the muscle meat that we usually eat.
Okay.
So
Marrow.
Yeah, so we're supposed to be getting some more of that glycine, that amino acid. So every different protein has a different amino acid profile.
When you
of
apply
certain
essential amino acids, is that in there?
glycine, no. So glycine is non-essential. So
Right.
the essential it's outside the essential 9, but it's important to offset some of all of there's certain amino acids in muscle meat, like L-methionine is really high, and you don't want that really high levels of L-methionine in your blood all the time. Is the consensus that my understanding. So glycine, which you get in these organ meats and you get in this bone broth, that
Counters
offsets it. Yeah, it's
That makes sense.
like there's weird synergies in nature
I gotta
that
eat more
just
organs.
occur, and that I think is one of them. And that's why
Yeah.
if you're eating a balanced diet, you're getting some, and it's not just glycine that offsets it. There's obviously like fiber, minerals, and other things but that's just one thing that is like if you isolate it on its own, you can sort of see.
That's the point. There's so much synergy in nature, and we're sort of, we're knocking that synergy off its balance.
Yes.
In so many ways.
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
The environment is like a very visual example, but what we eat is something we probably don't think about as often.
Yeah, I agree.
How unnatural all the food is.
Yeah.
I think it's a natural thing for us as we evolve through time. A lot of us now are coming more into like, technology will fix this, technology will fix that. It's like, well, hang on. Let's look back and see all these natural methods and see what merit they have to our health, because we are nature. We are linked to nature.
Yeah.
We
And
can't forget that.
A lot of medicine is just synthesized from something that's natural.
From natural elements.
And they're like, well, if we just put it in a pill, it's easier to transport, store, and administer at the right dosage, rather than getting someone to mix up these herbs and do whatever.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's interesting. So I guess, let's say I right now have a parasite. What would you suggest for me to focus on, or to do to sort of get rid of that parasite? This wouldn't be formal advice, just some suggestions.
Yeah.
Like even a specialist that you would go to.
Yeah, I would find a functional medicine specialist, and then I would consider the weed and seed. I would consider it because it may work for you. It may.
And what would be some things I'd do for the weed and seed?
If you are going to weed and seed, you want to make sure you talk to, because there's ways you can offset a lot of so you can have, there's a specific yeast called Sacca, I can never pronounce any of these things. Saccharomyces boulardii. It's like a strain of yeast that stays in your system for only
yeast is a living
28 days. That's supposed to basically mitigate a lot of the stuff, a lot of the symptoms that you get from antibiotics. So if you talk to them, they'd prescribe that as well. You can you want to be having a lot of bone broth to be. There's a lot of L-glutamine, glycine, and things like that.
So they're things that make your gut stronger.
They heal your gut, yeah. So you want to make sure that you're doing it smart. You want to make sure that you with the weed.
Would you recommend bone broth in any case? Just
all the time. Smash bone broth, because it's so under consumed compared to the amount of muscle meat you're eating. So
like what we were talking about before.
Exactly.
All the stuff that's in the bones.
But
we're not eating.
Because bones, like where blood's made, yeah.
Yeah. That's
so like there'd be a lot of good nutrients in that, like animal bones.
True.
Yep.
True. So the other thing, after you're looking after the stomach, when you do a weed before the seed, there's a lot of dead bacteria, and what they release these things called endotoxin, LPS endotoxins. They hang around in your blood, and when they go into your bloodstream, it goes into your liver, and it makes its way to your liver, and your liver then puts it back into into the bile. So there's a bile duct between your liver and your stomach, and all that toxin has got to get through the digestive system again. So if you have if you weed, you get all these things all at once, all these toxins constant in this cycle.
And they're getting into your blood and circulating.
You've got to help get it out
through your whole
body.
So
you've got to think about another system that you're looking after while you're doing this. Because for me, it was my kidney. Like after doing antibiotics, I was feeling my stomach was so sore, and I was having trouble walking. I was like, I got to go back to the doctor. Something's wrong. They tested me, and my kidneys were way out of range because I just had so many antibiotics. And what's the mechanism for it being aggressive on your body? Is it the antibiotic, or is it all of the toxins of the things that you're getting rid of all these things? So you got to make sure that you're looking after your liver and your detox system. You got to make sure you're healing your gut lining. You got to you have to get someone to talk all of those things. I think you need some help to get through it, or you just take the antibiotics and hope for the best. And maybe you're one of the ones that you don't get any issue and don't think about it. The other thing is, once you've done all that, I think that the thing I spent too much time thinking about it. If I had my time over, I would have a plan, stick to the plan, let it go. Just now that the plan's out there, don't think about it anymore. Just let it. Whatever. Now you've done all you can. You're happy with your best effort. Now let it run. Don't stop just worrying about it. Just
follow the plan, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't keep trying to find things. Yes. Oh, what about this and that? And what about this and that? Just go, no, put the blinkers on. I've got my plan. Yes. This is my structure. I'm going to follow this, and I'm going to measure myself over this period of time, and then see if it's improving. And if I do this for a few months and then there isn't any substantial change, then you might consider going back to your specialist and having a discussion
about it. What he said, everyone, what he said.
Yeah.
That's the best summary. That's the best way you could do it.
Yeah. I find that's like with anything in life. Like you might try and do something in business, right?
That's the whole thing.
It's the whole thing. It's like everything's just trying to
give it time. Everyone wants the shortcut
into your mind. You just got to go, no, this is what I'm focusing on.
Focus.
This is how I'm going to do it.
Focus is the word.
This is my plan.
Yeah.
I'm just going to implement this plan.
Yeah.
And let's do it.
Optimization. A lot of optimization is bracketing. So you're focusing on this till completion, and then you're focusing on this till completion. You're not just looking at 7 different things you need to do and jumping across all 7 and being like spinning plates.
It's so funny too. It's just a memory I always have back at school, like when we were in woodwork class, whatever. You'd be building something, and there'd always be someone that, oh, hey mate, how about why don't you just like chip that way, or why don't you like put that there or do this? And you're like, mate, I've already got my plan. I'm implementing. how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Fair enough to like listen to some experts that come in and give you an opinion, and then you're like, oh yeah, I might do that join that way because then it'll fit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a line where you just got to go, this is what I'm doing, and this is what's happening, and that's it.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh, what do you
Shall
reckon,
we,
guys? We
end
wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hope we gave some good information, some education, and some
Yeah.
entertainment.
Hopefully you get something out of that with the gut health side of things and a bit of
Really
adventure and travel.
important.
So yeah, thanks Justin for coming
Interesting
along
stuff,
and
mate.
Thanks for having me.
sharing your story.
Really
It's,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you.
I've definitely got a lot out of it. So yeah, I hope you guys got a lot out of it. So
Get
like,
those
follow,
broths.
subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and we'll see you on the next one.